Right, I'm going to kick off now. It's 4:02, so I think everyone should be joining very shortly if they haven't already. So hello and welcome on behalf of Angel Academy to our very first Thrive webinar. I'm Sarah Turner. I've met a lot of you before. I recognise all the names, but hello to everyone I haven't yet met. We're broadcasting this afternoon live from Angel Academy headquarters. I'm in what we like to refer to as Conference Room 1, and Simon, my co-founder, is in Conference Room 2.
Hello.
So known as the sitting room. Just want to make a special thank you to Dania and Faye from Spinks, who are making things run smoothly today. So thanks to both of you. I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes giving the Angel Academy story, and then I'm going to hand over to our fantastic speakers this afternoon. We've given them the challenging brief of coming up with 5 insights in 5 minutes. Once they've all spoken, then it's over to you for Q&A. You'll see at the bottom of your screen that there's a Q&A button where you can submit your questions, so please do so as we go along. We are recording this session, so if you prefer not to be identified by name, then submit your questions anonymously. If you're happy to be named, Simon will mention your name when he reads out your question. Obviously, we don't want to gloss over the human tragedy that's unfolding currently, and our hearts go out to anyone who's suffering. But there's also an economic challenge ahead of us, and the focus of today's discussion is on the impact on business of the current epidemic. So next slide, please. Just a little bit of background about Angel Academy. So we're an angel network. Our members are investing some of their hard-earned money directly into technology startups. But we have a specific mission to increase female investment. I'm sure most of you are well aware of the gender funding gap, but I just wanted to run through a few quick statistics just to remind you. The numbers are pretty stark. So Local Globe, which is an early stage VC firm, did an analysis of 633 angel deals. In those investments, only 7% of the angels who participated were female. And this doesn't reflect a wealth or a pay gap. Women actually own 48% of the UK wealth. So we were well underrepresented amongst the investor community. According to Diversity VC's research, of every pound invested in 2018, 89p goes to all male founding teams. And this is despite a growing body of evidence in both the corporate and the startup worlds that actually businesses with diverse teams perform much better. So as we always say, investing in women is a no-brainer. Finally, when women do invest, they tend to back women at a much higher rate than men. We've certainly found this in our own research, and there's also some analysis by Duquesne University in the US, where they looked at 529 investments from 2018 and found exactly the same thing. Next slide, please. So while we focus on women, we aren't women only. Most of the companies we've invested in are actually gender diverse, and 30% of our members are men. Our members are all successful entrepreneurs and senior leaders. Many come to us to make their first angel investment. Others have been adding to already very large portfolios. And why do they invest? Angel investing brings access to networks, knowledge, and opportunities. So our members are advancing themselves as well as supporting new businesses through investing. I like to think of each investment as a mini MBA. Next slide, please. We've backed 25 female founded or co-founded businesses so far. They span the range of technology sectors from fintech to edtech, medtech, quite a lot of enterprise SaaS, and also some consumer tech businesses. I think every business is finding things challenging right now. Our world's been turned upside down. But as new businesses, I think it's a particularly tough time for startups. However, there are some bright spots. A few of the companies in our portfolio closed some investment before the lockdown, so they have cash reserves, which is very handy. Several are in areas that will benefit and are reporting their best results ever. So we have some businesses that are building collaboration tools and communities, others that are focused on business automation or remote services. We have a couple in EdTech as well. Some are pivoting to benefit from the accelerating trends. So, you know, definitely some trends that were starting to emerge that have arrived earlier than anticipating, remote working being a prime example. All benefit from being tech-based, so have scalable processes, which is one of the key things we look for in investment opportunities. And they're all nimble businesses. So I'm hoping in the long term, they'll all benefit from the next few months and beyond. I see 5 years worth of innovation happening in a very quick period of time. And lastly, for us as investors, there will be some great opportunities at very realistic prices. So we've got to be bold. We've got to put our Warren Buffett hats on and think like him. So next slide, please. So today's event is all about people. You know, it's obvious, but I don't think, you know, none of us have experienced anything like what we're being asked to do today. Not only are we staying at home, we're working remotely, we have to distance ourselves physically from everyone outside our own households. And we're homeschooling our kids. This is bound to have not just immediate impact, but some long-term impact. And that's what I would like us to discuss this afternoon. And to help us answer that question, we have 3 fantastic speakers. We've asked them to start with giving us 5 thoughts in 5 minutes, and then we'll move into a discussion. We've all got some hashtags and Twitter handles, so please do tweet along with us if you've got the chance, or post to LinkedIn, and we'll repost as well. So our very first speaker is Lara Mott. Lara co-founded Improve Well in 2016 to empower frontline healthcare professionals to drive change. The technology is being used across the NHS as well as in the US and New Zealand. Lara previously spent 11 years in a variety of senior roles in healthcare investment, consulting, and financial services. She has a first-class degree in pharmacology from Bristol University, and last year she was appointed as the British Medical Journal's first entrepreneur in residence. So over to you, Lara.
Thanks, Sarah, for that kind introduction. I always smile when I hear things like that about me. I just can't help it. So thank you. It has certainly been an interesting time as a health tech startup whose main customer base is the healthcare workforce. The first thought that we had when this all hit really was empathy. Firstly, for my team, actually, I could kind of see that the team were getting increasingly anxious about the evolving situation, watching the news, watching China. And so actually, we took the decision a month ago, yesterday, to just move to remote-based working. As a digital business and as a small, nimble business, that was relatively straightforward for us to do, and it had little impact on us operationally. So that's been working very, very well. But obviously the next immediate thought to my mind was our customers. And we felt very strongly that now is not really the time to push, utilizing a new technology, particularly with the immediate pressures on the front line. So we took a very personal approach, and we emailed every single one of our customers and every single one of our previous customers, or anybody who had ever experienced using the software, just to say, you know, we're here, we're thinking about you, and let us know how we can help, because we didn't really know, you know, what kind of help we could offer. So once we'd kind of contacted those key stakeholders, existing customers, new customers in our pipeline, partners that we'd worked with, friends and family of the business, we of course had to communicate with our investors. Now we were actually right in the middle of a seed round, so I basically took the decision that there was no way that we were going to be able to effectively close that round, given the sort of unquantifiable impact on our financial projections and the answers that investors would want. So we had to move very quickly to take control of the business, and you know, we decided to operate on a worst case scenario, which for Improvewell is, you know, let's say we don't make another sale for the rest of 2020, you know, what does that look like, and what kind of decisions do we need to make? So we conducted a strategic review of the business. We made sure that we could have a sort of 9 to 12 month cash runway based on that worst case scenario without making a new sale. And then once we knew what that looked like, we took action to strip out any unnecessary costs from the business, to get us on the leanest possible business model. And at that point, we then communicated to all of our incoming shareholders to give them comfort that we had a plan, and obviously then communicated that back to existing shareholders, which was challenging. And, you know, we did have to let some people go, which was very difficult for us as a small business. But again, the team have been incredible and very supportive, and completely understand why we've decided what we've decided. So that brings me on to my third learning, which is back to basics. We have essentially all gone back to basics. We are observing, we're listening, we're learning. With our tool, we instinctively feel like we have a tool that could help and can help. But as Sarah said at the beginning, you know, we have no idea. We've never operated in this environment before. And actually sometimes introducing something new could have the opposite of the desired effect. So we're taking time to really focus on the emerging trends. What is it that people actually need? How can we help? And actually the team are really enjoying having time to go off and take courses and learn and take advantage of the resources that are very generously being offered for free for lots of leading organizations around the globe. So we have definitely embraced these new ways of working and the team spirit. I know there's lots of techniques going on across different companies. For us in particular, we have a 9:30 Google hang with all the team. There is no agenda for that apart from having a cup of tea or your breakfast and talking about light-hearted things. We've got a Slack channel for distractions and quizzes, and you know, a list of things we're looking forward to doing when we get out of lockdown. We continue to do things like setting our weekly goals and our monthly goals. So we do have productivity tools that we use as a business anyway to make sure that people are focused. And importantly, we've tried to make sure that everybody now knows what they can do personally to contribute to the business, to our goals, to our customers. So we're trying to still give people that autonomy, even though we're now working in a completely sort of virtual environment. So we've really tried to empower our small team now to feel like they're making a difference. And my last learning really is communicate. So we are over communicating at the moment with our team, with our stakeholders as much as possible. Even if it feels like too much, you know, we are taking the view that actually maybe people aren't in the know and maybe they need that little bit extra because, you know, of the isolation and sort of working solo at home. So whether it's the team, whether it's customers, whether it's new customers, or the stakeholders I've mentioned, we are trying to keep everybody in the loop. And that's also what we're now helping our customers with as well. So because we have an engagement solution, now is the time, really more than ever, to keep connected with people and try and communicate. So that really sums up my 5 learnings, and I hope that was in 5 minutes as well.
Thank you very much, Lara, and we'll come back to you in Q&A. I'm now going to introduce Yi Liu. Yi is currently head of strategy at Greensill, where she leads strategy and finance work for the consumer proposition. Previously, Yi was the founding chief strategy officer of FreeUp, which is a fintech startup that enables people to receive their salaries as soon as they've worked. Greensill acquired FreeUp with SoftBank funds in 2019. Yi is also an angel investor with a focus on fintech. She loves working with founders and doesn't mind her rolling up her sleeves to get the work done. I know this from personal experience at Angel Academe, because we've run a deal team together, which was our biggest investment to date. So quite a big project. So over to you, Yi.
Thank you, Sarah, for your very kind introduction. Yeah, I guess for me that it's quite interesting, to wear different hats and see the pandemic to how it affects the whole investment world through different perspectives. A lot of audience today that I have came across through Angel Academe as a fellow investor, but I felt like I do to give you guys an update on what happened last year and what what I've been working on right now. So as Sarah just introduced, I'm currently working on the consumer proposition within a wider group called Greensill, and where we allow people to get daily access to their salary. And very similar with Lara, our only customer right now is NHS, who is in the center of this pandemic. So it's very interesting for us is that a lot of our work has gone into reassess our previous assumptions on our product market fit. Because there's so much assumptions have been changed on our users' behavior, on their financial situation, on what is, our employer clients, what do they need, and what the speed of the implementation they need. So I think this pandemic gives us a great opportunity to review what is our goal, as well as to reassess the assumptions and to see if they are still valid right now. And I think to summarize my learning through this new way of working, is that I see it as a house with 5 pillars, and they are all interlinked, and they probably from the different aspects, but I think that they are very sort of interesting to fit from a different dimension in different organization, and each organization need to be adapted into a quite tailored strategy of how they cope with it. But I'm going to use my own experience and observations to hopefully share something useful. Yeah, so as I said, the long-term goal is very important, and I think this new way of setting is particularly give us a chance to focus on output rather than input. And in a long-term setting, that if you see the long-term goal of 10 years, the venture world we are in, all the venture capital have a vision of their investment will be realized in 5 years' time. So if that's a good business, 3 months ago, it should be still a business that right now. So I think that is something to be focused, and also to focus on the output. It is a good way actually aligned with the long-term business strategy. So for that sense, I think this is a positive side that pandemic has given to people to review it matters in 5 years' time, what matters to you, that, the output and also the breakdown of your long-term goal. So that is one thing, and I think I see it as a blue star. And I think the next point is about working independently. It might look so obvious, like, who couldn't work independently? But I think this pandemic gave us an opportunity to be more disciplined on that question. We used to all collaborate, seamlessly. We could have a chat in the kitchen. We could, pop grab our colleague anytime for questions. But now the new situation, the new question has been emerged: how we do our work effectively when we are by ourselves. So the next point is about focus on ourselves, give ourselves a routine, establish a health lifestyle, focus on life-work balance, and focus on, establish the discipline about how you like to work, etc. And the communicating effectively. But I think, Lara has touched base on that point. But I think this is about others. So we have touched base on the question about ourselves, and there will be a dimension about others. How do we communicate effectively in this new setting? In the first 2 weeks of lockdown, I actually have about double of the meetings that I had previously. I think the main reason is because we need to establish a new way of working, a new way of trust in this setting. We need to be able to trust our colleagues for loop us in the useful conversation, for collaborating, for this new way of working. And we need to allow time to establish this, and this will be useful after the pandemic to give us a new dimension of collaborating. Yeah, and the fourth point and the fourth pillar, I think, is the investment. It might be very obvious, but I think there might be some organization haven't really invested enough in it. So we've been discussed a little bit about the tools, Slack, Google Docs for share, Zoom, Trello, and we use Jira. So there are many tech tools we can leverage, but also I think it's also quite important to make sure that people are invested into home office, that we have bought everyone a screen, as well as making sure they are set up with their office. We send them a stationery pack. It's not expensive, but it's just a way that we show that we do care. We care that how do they feel. We wanted to make sure that they are looked after. So I think that is to put the money where the mouth is, to invest into this new way of working as well. And the last thing I think is most important, probably among all these five, is to have fun. And we have designed a virtual coffee coffee break in our Zoom. So you can pop in that 2 hours time just to chit chat, to share your story about your kids, your pet, your weekend. And if you don't go there to talk about business or work, you just talk, to your colleagues, and make sure there's still a way of socialization. We have Friday afternoon dedicated for the quiz, and we have only for 1 hour. It's not for entire afternoon yet. And we have we send people brownie and beer when we reach our milestone. So I think we've been really trying to create different ways to make people feel that first, the company is looking after them. And the second is that I think the socialization element is still very important in the remote working setting. Yeah. So that is all my 5 points of learning so far.
Thank you very much. Some fascinating insights, and we'll be back with you as well in the Q&A. But last but not least, we have Jason Allen. So Jason's currently the CEO for Harvey Nash Technology in the UK and Ireland, USA, Germany, Switzerland, Poland, and Australia. He has over 25 years experience of building and growing organizations in senior executive positions internationally, including as the managing director for Capita, leading a team of about 5,000 in the customer management division, as CEO for Australia's 2014 Super Rugby Champions and Australia's largest V8 supercars event, and National Executive General Manager Australia for the consumer business of Vodafone. So over to you, Jason. Next slide.
Thank you very much, and thanks for inviting me today. As you can see from my career, I've really got no idea what I want to do, so I'm still trying to work that out. And one of the things I'm very passionate about is startups, because I invest in them and I'm also chairman of one. So I'm very pleased to be here today, so thank you. Hey, I've used an acronym and I've cheated. I've got 6. I'm really sorry about this, Sarah and Simon. I've failed already. I've used the acronym of Spinks because it actually links really well into the business plan that we've got. And what we've got is when we went into this period, we were sort of halfway through doing our business plans around the world. So we've had to kick off our business plans in different countries virtually, which was kind of interesting because about half of our workforce work virtually anyway. So I was probably in more of a learning curve than most of our people through this process, which was quite a wonderful position to be in, I think. So if I just sort of kicked off from a strategy perspective, and I don't like the word strategy, I like the word getting stuff done. So I'll call it getting stuff done. And one of the things that we set off doing at the beginning was, have we got the technology right? I mean, we work in different countries, different time zones, people work differently. So we started chatting about that in the countries that started going through this pandemic earlier. So companies obviously through the US and then through Poland and Germany. And we started shifting how we operated with that knowledge base and that learning. And we started working with our external partners on better ways to do stuff. So whether or not we thought the best technology to use was the Zooms, etc., and we found our little comfort zone. And obviously how we like to work with all of our customers, because we've got different customers from scale, from obviously large customers through to a lot of startup businesses and medium enterprises. And we did a lot of virtual onboarding with our people internally, but also our customers. So we were sharing all those learnings and sharing what those facets might be, and there's a lot of them, and one of the questions might come on that, but we've got a whole paper on that, and we're happy to share that post today. Of course, people, something I'm really passionate about, and it was about how we engage with the working day, the new working day for all of us. And we asked our people, we weren't going to position this is how it's going to be. We wanted people to come up with how it could work for them, and we've got ourselves into a bit of a rhythm there. And I think it's quite important that we have inspirational moments within the week. And I don't really want to set them. I don't want to say 12 o'clock, force fun moment or inspiration moment. We kind of just do it ad hoc. And I think it's really got to be natural and evolve. Then going into integration, I think it's really important, particularly in our business, but I think to share, is to build positive engagement points internally and externally. We've created lots of projects, and we haven't created them just because we've got time to do it. We don't. We've had to furlough a good percentage of our people throughout this period. So we're putting a lot of load on people. But I think just to share what Lara and Yi, and I feel like I'm stealing a bit of it, but we're doing a lot of projects on reviewing our business, having a look at how we finance our business, the structure of it, what opportunities we've got, and all sorts of opportunities are popping out. We'll be launching a new business. We'll be looking at other businesses that we can restructure. So it's been a really exciting time to look within again in a health check, and our people are doing that, which is great. Rather than sitting around in boardrooms, we're doing it in different levels and a different motion of doing it, which I think is wonderful. And people are learning a lot from it, including me. And really, I don't want people to be isolated. It's okay. I live on a farm, so it's very, very different. I can get out and go for a walk, but not everyone can. I've got a lot of staff in the studio apartments. Some people have to work in attics. I mean, some people work underground. So, I want to make sure people aren't feeling isolated. So we make sure that there are moments in the day where there are breaks. We don't call meetings. We just don't get involved in a business conversation. We leave for family time, animal time, whatever time. I don't want to force it. It's their time, which is really important for our people. It sort of ends when we go into new stuff. I shared a bit of that before. I talked about some of the growth opportunities, but some of the stuff we're looking at with expanding Spinks as well and going into Spinks on site and looking at opportunities as we evolve out of this, which is going to be critical that we are part of a solution. We're not, of course, we are part of the solution, and we're all ears on what that should look like. We don't have all the answers, so we're happy to hear about that. And looking at some CSR stuff. We do a lot of CSR stuff, but once again, I'm a true believer. I host a group for unemployed executives, C-suite executives. We have a chat. It's a chat. I don't want an agenda. I don't want people to position that we're trying to force work or we're using it for any commercial benefit. It's just a room that we can confidentially chat. I've got a group of 10 people, and some of the conversations are unbelievable. I mean, we dip in and dip out of the personal stuff, how it feels when you're unemployed in this period, and just some stuff that's real. What I think, I think we chuck around authenticity a lot, but I think it's just having a real chat with humans again and caring. So we're talking about how we can evolve that throughout our business, and the staff are coming up with some really good ideas, and that's helping people with CV writing and so forth, and interview skills, stuff that's going to be so critical for thousands of people that don't know this, who have come from more blue-collar work environments, which I'm really passionate about as well, and they're driving that. So I'm going to be part of the project team, and I know they're going to give me jobs to do, and I can't wait. Kay, really building knowledge and learning. We want to use this time to keep learning, keep inspiring our people. We have regular engagement with our people. We've got a leadership development plan that we've brought into play. We've got focused mental health stuff, which we'll go through in a minute. But this is all coming from internal and external people. So we're not believing our own rhetoric here. It's a really good time for us to manage through that process. And as safety of our people, it's everything to me. If I wake up in the middle of the night, I worry about this. I worry that this can be a very lonely place for a lot of people that have a different balance in their life. So we have health and well-being, education formats, education hotlines, people to chat to. I have 4 or 5 people that check in every day with me personally, and I know that they are at risk in our business, and they check in and just tell me how they're feeling. I'm real. I told all the staff the other day I felt quite prickly when I came out of Easter because I felt like a trapped tiger. I felt like I actually just wanted to go to a restaurant. I mean, I don't even care. I would have sat out the front with a nice glass of wine and a meal, even if I could just eat out of a takeaway box. I just felt like I wanted to get out of the environment. So I think it's just this time at the moment to be real. Tell people your emotions. We don't have to be superhuman. That's not going to help, I don't think. I think just being honest about, hey, I'm feeling like this too. Let's help each other get out of it, and let's start moving forward day by day. I really appreciate today and the opportunity to share some of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. So, thank you, Jason, Yi, and Lara. I'm now going to hand over to Simon to run the Q&A. We've got about 40 minutes for that, and a few questions have started to come through. So please do type them into the Q&A if you've got some. So over to you, Simon, for this bit.
Thanks, Sarah. So yeah, thanks for those of you that have already come in with some questions. I've got a couple I'd like to fire off on my own to get us going, guys. And I mean, you've already there's a huge amount that you've already covered, but I'd like to unpack some of it. And I'd like to start off by asking you about some of the specific challenges of managing teams remotely. And I'm particularly interested in exploring how you maintain team coherence and culture. And that's really for any of you to answer, or indeed all of you.
Who wants to go first? Shall I go
I'll
first?
kick off.
Go on, Lara.
I'll kick off. Go on, Lara. You go.
Oh, good. Thanks, Jason. So we actually run a process every Monday. We all as a group talk about 3 things that we must do this week, 3 things that would be nice to do, and 3 things that we should stop doing, which is kind of reflecting on the previous week. So this was something that actually my chairman introduced to me a couple of years ago on an accelerator that I was on, and I had to think about it every week personally, and obviously the stop doings are always really, really hard, but we've sort of embedded that in the culture now. And so when we move to fully remote working, because we have that pillar every Monday of everybody kind of setting their goals for the week and everybody seeing everybody else's, we didn't really feel a change in that sense, which was really lucky. So we kind of had that coherence and that visibility on what everyone was working on and how that fits into everybody else's work streams. And we've covered off already, you know, some of the other things we've brought in terms of catching up, not talking about work, and allowing everyone to be human. And, you know, if they need help or having a bad day, or, you know, something's gone wrong at home or whatever it might be, people can kind of step in and help. But I think setting off the week in terms of what is it that we really need to achieve this week, and if everything comes in from left field, what are those 3 things that absolutely have to get done? If people get those 3 things done by Tuesday, they already feel like they can give themselves a bit of a break for the rest of the week. So that's quite satisfying to be ticking things off and achieving things even in periods of uncertainty.
Right.
I think
Jason,
Simon,
you going to come in with something?
yeah. Yeah, thanks, Simon, and thanks, Lara, too. I think to bounce off that, the good news is we're pretty clear about our plan. So we were clear going into this process about what we were going to be doing. And what we're going to be doing is still what we're going to be doing. It's just we're doing it a bit different. And I think the lesson that we've got is we're doing more updates. I can tell you, I'm on more video conferences. I can't look at myself anymore on these things. I'm trying to work out a way to change everything about me, because I've realised how terrible it is for everyone that's seeing it. So I think we're doing so many of these, and I've actually tried to influence calming it down a bit, because we're trying to fill our diaries. So I think one is we've got our reviews, we know what we're doing, we're still doing it. We might be changing a bit about it, but we're still doing it. Two, purposeful conversations, I think, is really important. And not me chairing it is even more important. So that accountability, because I'm off against different time zones and different cultures, I've got different people chairing topics, a link to the business plan, and they're putting their spin to it, and they're sharing ideas, and they're learning from each other, which is, I mean, I've always thought learning from a peer or a team member is a lot more powerful than being lectured about it through a leader. And I'm loving it. I'm sitting in the background taking more notes and taking the minutes and kind of going, wow, this is, and it's an evolution for us. I've got to share with everyone, this is a steep learning curve for us, because we've operated in big silos and done okay doing that, but obviously not captured the absolute potential of the business. So, and the other stuff, the fun stuff, I let that evolve within its own right. My gosh, the guys are doing runs together. They're doing, one guy came out with a DJ session. I think there's more happy hours. I think one was starting at 10 a.m. the other day, which of course I joined, Simon. And I think, I'm just letting that all evolve. I think that's important. It's their business, and I trust them.
I think, judging from my neighbours recycling, pretty much everyone's having a happy hour that starts at 10 at the moment. Did you have any thoughts on the management of remote teams and team coherence in general?
Yeah, I think in general, just a quick one, I have trying to do three things. So first is to make sure that team feel that they are looked after in many ways. And the second is to dedicate time for socialization and for having fun. That's quite important element, I think, in our culture, because we're very much a startup and tech culture. I think that is quite important. And the third is to keep people and keep ourselves disciplined, especially, the discipline on communication, and as well as the discipline of sticking the routine, as well as the output. So yeah, those are three things we're trying to do to achieve that.
Okay.
Still learning, yeah.
Well, I think we're all still learning. Okay, well, I'm going to, we've got some questions coming in. Most of them, many of them seem to be anonymous, but anyway, the first question that came in, I think is really, really interesting, and you've alluded to it somewhat already, but it's about where you guys go for input on how to deal with all of this. I know, Jason, you discussed having a confidential meetup with some peers, but in general, are you going with your own instinct in general, or are you seeking advice from investors, from mentors?
Yeah, a bit of all of the above. I mean, I'm all ears, right? So we had a chat, obviously, about this call the other week, and I had some stuff that was shared on the call. I thought, I haven't done that, or I haven't executed on that. So I'm all ears. I mean, for interest's sake, I own half of a sports business outside of here, and the other owners are, an ex-professional sports person who's been at the peak and has resilience galore. And that's a bit of a blind side for that person. So there's sort of like, I'm always on a high, everything's fine. I mean, I'm going, hang on a minute, we've got a cash flow issue here. We need to talk about it. We need a solution. So, but I take energy from that as well. I talk to a lot of people in business. I make sure I speak to 4 to 6 people a day, and competitors as well. And we just share notes about how we're leading the world at the moment in which we work in, the small part that we have to play. So yeah, I'm all ears. I mean, I don't think there is a perfect answer to this, is there? Because there's a shape that's going to be right for different people with your leadership styles and your environments and your businesses. So I'm definitely all ears for trying different stuff. But I think the good news is we learned so much about ourselves in this period, and that can only bode well for the future, I think.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
I agree. And I think it's really interesting that, just go back to the point that Jason making, that, you know, nobody is having a perfect answer for the question. But I think we're all learning together. That is a beautiful thing about this this pandemic, as well as this new way that in the future, that how working relationship is going to be completely changed, that the level of the trust and etc. is going to be completely different level. So I think that is really an interesting question. And in that time, the collaboration is even more important. You know, to help each other out, not only on the, you know, the level of your colleagues, but also the level of the sort of like globalization level. So why I'm mentioning about that is that it's interesting that, because I'm originally from China, like since January and February, you know, there's loads of information already on the social media about how to remote work and the lessons has been learned, the experience been learned. So I was like, even though I never thought this will come to UK, but I was being sort of mentally prepared for it a little bit because of the experience as being seen in the other side of the world. So I think in the future that there's going to be a new level of collaboration, a new level of trust being established, and all of us are learning how we're going to do it and how we're going to be benefit from it.
Great. And Lara, did you have anything to add there?
Yeah, I echo that. I think for me, the main thing that I wanted to do was just buy ourselves time, because I think if you can just remove any sort of time pressures and things, it means you can pause and think and as Jason and you said, you know, kind of listen, learn, watch. It comes back to my points on going back to basics. So talking to peers, talking to my team, my investors, the friends and family network. You know, you have to make decisions and be a leader and kind of be comfortable with the decision you made. For me, again, there's no right or wrong, but I just wanted to give us as much time as possible so that we could see how things evolve and make sure we can make the right decisions.
This is so true.
Great. Well, building on that, we've got a question from Simon Potter, and I think I'll read out most of it. I'm sure you can see it there, but it's really about, I think it's a very fair question about Zoom fatigue. As you said here, you know, attendance at our weekly social get-together is dropping. So obviously it's not obligatory, but it suspects that some people would come if it felt less like a stand-up meeting. So, and Yi, I mean, you know, you talked about sort of trying to have some fun in all of this. Is you know, how difficult is it to recreate something that is meant to be social and about bonding and bringing us together when what we're just doing for 10 hours a day is basically staring at little pictures of each other that are that big? What are some of the challenges there?
I think it's completely different. We have to appreciate the fact that you can never really reach the level that previously you can do it, you know, when you are physically together. I mean, also I want to say thank you for everyone, even though you have Zoom fatigue, you still turn up in a Zoom webinar. And I think, you know, so for us, I think Zoom fatigue is not so much. It's because we previously also have a lot of meetings, so you kind of felt like you are delegate. The time to interact with people is about the same amount. And I think the way we're trying to do to make sure that people are not too fatigued about that is everything is volunteer. So if you felt that you'd prefer to not do any meeting today, you are absolutely 100%. You can do that. You just focus on your research, you know, your development, writing the codes, or you felt like if you want to come back, feel free. So we wanted to give people options, and the reason that why I said is giving people, you know, sending them brownie and beers are important because even though it's not expensive, it's nice to have a bit of a materialized thing to see while everything seems so virtual. And I think that is what we can do for now. But hopefully we are not in this setting, the complete lockdown for too long, and we will be able to go back to the normal and still, you know, have fun face to face and still be able to socialize as previously we all did. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Anyone else got anything to say on, I mean, not specifically Zoom fatigue, but this kind of, you know, fatigue with this kind of comms full stop, really?
Yeah, I think I get it. I get fatigue from this, I'll be honest. We use it a lot anyway because we've obviously go across different geographies. But I mean, my phone's hardly ever ringing anymore. All that's ringing is my PC, right? Then I was reading an article this morning that House Party in the last few weeks has had more than 50 million hits. So I think what's happening is we're going from fatigue of work to personal life where, you know, I've got pals ringing on weekends going, hey, do you want to have a Skype? Do you want to go on House Party? Do you want to? I'm going, no, sorry, love you guys, but just ring me and I'll just put you on the speaker and we'll have a chat. That'd be great. And I think to me, what we're doing, Simon, is we're just trying to mix up the comms a bit. Like let's just not let's not do this overboard. Rather than ringing, we're now ringing on Office or ringing on Zoom. Let's just, you know, we can still use all the other technologies we've got because we don't want to do this, send a message, send an email, send a text message, then a WhatsApp, and then go, hey, should we get on a Zoom? Are we serious? We just had 5 chats about that. We could have got it sorted by then. So we've just been a bit tight with each other and we've been honest. I think just trying to keep it down to a level that's manageable for each person, which is going to be different. But I think if you're doing 60 to 80 a week, I think you got to, you know, start thinking about it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
That's not working.
No. Yeah, and who knew that you could use these to make phone calls? I
think they're out. Hey, they're going to start worrying about these things at the end, aren't they?
I know. I don't know, Lara, did you have anything to add there, or shall I?
No, I think all good points. There's probably more questions you want to cover.
Well, okay, no, that's great. Well, perhaps you can go straight to this one, actually. So James has asked, how do you push yourself? And are there any techniques you use to be decisive and act quickly in the face of large levels of uncertainty? And then I think to that, someone asked earlier about what is the challenge that's keeping you up at night? So yeah, techniques for dealing with a challenge and the biggest ones you're thinking about.
Okay, so I'll cover the how do I push myself. I think in this new environment, what we've seen is that it's okay to not be 100% perfect or 100%, you know, right. You obviously need to be decisive and sort of stick with the plan and sort of lead and. You know, you need to give a sense of that you're in control, because obviously your team and your employees are looking to you for direction. But I think in this new environment, we can be a bit more human. You know, I frequently say to my team that I don't have all the answers. But we have processes that we use in terms of if we're going to make a big, bold new decision, we kind of weigh up the pros and cons. We come back to our core principles of the business, you know, being evidence-based, making evidence-based decisions, things like that. So I think if you come back to your core business values and you focus on the problem you're trying to solve, and you try and sort of ignore the noise out there about, you know, how your competitors are doing it or how everyone else is doing it, and not worry about whether it's the right way of doing it, I think you can then just, you know, focus on one hurdle at a time. And just keep moving forward, you know, and the pace will be slightly different, but that's okay. So I think that's how I kind of push myself to just keep making decisions and not second guessing myself, because otherwise you just get paralysis and you won't move forward. So
do you feel under more scrutiny from your team at the moment?
No, actually, I think they are definitely looking for, you know, guidance. But everybody's come together and been very supportive. People are actually supporting me, you know, and asking how I am and how am I doing in this environment, and right. Which is really nice, you know. So I think, again, people have recognized that, you know, I may not have the answers, but I can definitely explain why I've made the certain decision that I have or how we've come to it as a team. So I think people are definitely more aware of decisions being made and are maybe more keen to know why certain decisions have been made, because, you know, we don't have that day-to-day interaction. They can't see the decision making behind the scenes. You know, it's only when we're connected together in an organized time slot that's apparent. So yeah, I think people are behaving in a much more kind of caring way, regardless of role or level of seniority. I think everybody's looking out for each other and helping to support the business decisions in the way that they can.
Great. Jason, any techniques you have for pushing yourselves in terms of decisiveness in particular?
For me, it's a state of mind, Simon. So I got to get away from the computer. I need some air, some sun, some air, some thinking time. And I think the thinking time builds confidence in the way I operate. So I'm not sort of crowded by calls, emails, process. That sort of helps me with it's the exercise too, like framing up, making sure that it's not just the mind that's healthy, the body is as well. And I'm not saying that as a cliche at all. I'm saying that because I think that's really important. And I think right now I don't want to sacrifice any of that just for the purpose of trying to be a hero, to have 14-hour days for any sort of fun. So I think that helps me with building resilience, which then helps with the decisiveness as well. But I don't really have to be like that with the culture of our business isn't that. I'm not the beholder of all the decisions, of course. That would be horrendous leadership. So I hope I'm a good facilitator to get a better outcome, because people are challenging me, which they are. So yeah, I mean, that's a kind of a culture that I like to work within.
And to the other question there, is there any one or a small number of very big things that are causing you sleepless nights at the moment?
Yeah, people's health. I think I shared that.
Yeah,
I'm worried about that because I can't look them in the eyes and get a feel, and they're a long way away, a lot of these people too, of course.
Yeah.
And this is not natural. And you're waking up and you're not turning on the news and hearing a good story, are you? You're not turning on the PC and seeing a news break that's good news story. So there is a reality to all of this, of course, that we're working in a world which is a phenomena. And it's the spread of very tough messages. And we've had that with some of our people who've lost their loved ones in our business. Some of us have got friends that are in high dependency units as well in different parts of the world. So we're kind of all sitting around going, you're having a different conversation in your head every day than that's normal. So I'll be frank, that's my thing. And we've got techniques and environments that are open for our people to help them through that process. Should they require it. But that's it. That's the big one. I'm not worried about cash flow, and all that stuff will work itself out. We've got backup plans. I think the government's come out with some pretty good initiatives. Probably could do a little bit more in a few other areas, which I think would be fair on this call. I won't go there because I think there's plenty of things they should. But the realities are that's the least of my worries. The big one's health.
Yeah. Okay. And Yi, what about for you?
I think I'm all good. I think they have been covered most of the points that been useful.
No. Okay, I just so just going back to our list. So a couple have asked a question that I really wanted to put to you, and it's really about what kind of working practices and communications methods and so on have emerged over the last few weeks and are currently developing that you think might stick after this is all over.
I think we will definitely have more tolerance towards the work from home. We will have a completely different view on the productivity that people work from home. And to be honest, it was very, very interesting that we've been looking to some case studies in Silicon Valley that some tech companies have employed a fully distributed workforce for the 5-6 years and also achieve a high growth. And I think this is not going to just happen in Silicon Valley. It's going to, or tech world, it's going to happen in a wider workforce, which is great because it gives people more flexibility and with higher level of trust. I think that's going to stay with us for a long time. And I think also it's about the way of we communicate and also to include people. This inclusion is going to change. That previously we always, do face meetings, and then now a lot of things has to be moved online. That we use, for example, Jira, and I know there are many other tools to share that your pipeline, your workforce. But I think this is all quite healthy move in a way that we've been more digital, and we could share it in a way that more with more comfortable level and with more trust. Yeah. So I see it quite a positive move, to be honest.
Lara, how about you?
Just unmute myself. So it's interesting really, I think, because we're a much smaller business. We've always kind of worked on a very flexible working basis. So we've never really had any concerns about people's productivity, whether they're home or in the office. So interestingly, I mean, we have given notice on our office now because we don't need it. So we're going to return sort of to the new normal without an office, and and we'll see how that goes. We will definitely bring people together in a location for sure, because we do really miss being together as a team. But I think we'll continue to operate on a flexi working basis. I think for us, the new ways of working is interestingly going to be with our customer base, because they are the NHS and the healthcare workforce. So we don't know what the new world is going to look like in terms of the adoption of digital tools to support workforces around the globe. So I think our focus is going to be very much on the delivery of our software as a service, more so than the sort of remote working across the team, which I think we've all embraced and we all quite enjoy actually. So it's that bit's okay for us.
Okay, and Jason, any thoughts from you on longer term impacts and change in working methods?
Yeah, I really agree with my fellow speakers have said too about the thriving way we're going to use technology, which I think is wonderful. For me, the big change for us, which has been awesome, is just the engagement that has been built across different sectors of the business. I mean, traditionally, when you work in these, I mean, I've worked in lots of small businesses and big businesses, like many people, I'm sure, on the call, but we've worked in these sort of big silos where the finance team don't regularly talk to the trading team, they don't talk to the HR team, and when we do, it's kind of a bit of tension, and it's everyone's sort of massaging a few egos and off we go again. And now we're all working on big projects and talking to each other like big kids. I hope it's not adults, because that'd be boring, but we're big kids having really decent conversations about the business and stuff we can do to help each other, and stuff we can do to help our customers, and stuff we can do to help the community. And I think that's just going to carry on now. I just think we're just in a bit of a mojo. It's kind of that really cool business rhythm we've got. And I'm really excited by that, because I'm not very corporate. So I kind of like being in a small business mind in a big business, because you kind of try to keep it real and have, normal human conversations. And I'm really excited by it. It's just evolving. And I think we're going to be a better business for it. And we need to be. And I reckon that's really exciting.
What sort of impact, I mean, it's great to hear all of that from all three of you, but how do you think the expectations of your customers, and albeit that you've all got very different kinds of customers, but how do you think the expectations of customers might have to change to address your different ways of working? Is there any tension there, do you think? No, everyone's gone very quiet. That's clearly not an issue. That was a bad question then. I'm sorry.
So, I mean, thankfully, we obviously work in the technology sector, and that's our core purpose of being. So a lot of people are very flexible to how we're operating right now, because it's quite normal. There's a lot of our contractors, a lot of who are obviously our clients and partners, a lot of our customers who are flexible in their working environment, like Lara and Co have shared. I mean, you are constantly on the move. We're talking to our customers, often on the move, often virtually as well. I think that's going to be a big change. I think we're going to have more flex in how we interact like this, which I think is wonderful, by the way, because I think we can become more productive with our time. And I think what happens on these VCs that I'm picking up, even though I'm probably having too many, is we're actually quite productive for a shorter period of time. Whereas when you're in a meeting room, you can go off on lots of tangents and someone knocks on the door and you know what I mean? So I'm feeling like we're really steaming ahead at the moment. And I'm hoping that we can initiate that when we come into our interface with our customers. And I hope, and if we don't see that, I'm hoping our customers will tell us that we'll change accordingly.
Okay.
Actually, that's a very good. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say it's a really good point, Jason, because I you know, thinking about it and hearing you speak, I do think people are going to be much more happy to have remote group meetings. You know, I've travelled all over the UK to go and have lots of different meetings with the NHS, and because I do think that, you know, meeting people in person is just fantastic for building relationships, and there's probably no substitute for that, you know, to a point. But I think, you know, if you're going to have 10 meetings before you actually decide to work together and launch, maybe the vast majority of those could be online, you know, to save everybody time and save everybody travel costs, and then, you know, the final when planning launch meetings can all be in person. So that might be a new efficient way of working that evolves when this all gets back to the new normal.
So do you think that in terms of building teams and hiring new staff, that this is going to have an impact? I mean, assuming these changes of working practice, which are quite profound for, not necessarily for you guys, but will be for a lot of companies, do you think it's going to change the kinds of skills you're looking for when you're hiring? And indeed, actually, just pragmatically on that point, what have been the impacts over the last few weeks on how one does go about hiring? I'm just getting blank faces to all my questions now. That's sorry,
Simon. Can you repeat your question? Did you ask?
Well, it was a two-header really about hiring. One is just pragmatics. How has hiring changed? If it's happening at all for you, what's the impact been on hiring over the last few weeks, and, you know, for the few weeks ahead? But longer term, in terms of your hiring, what kind of different skills or attitudes do you think you're going to be looking for in new hires?
Yeah, I think, you know, on the group level, that the hiring has been frozen, and we were on the ultra high growth in the past 6 months, but it's been frozen last week. I think fundamentally that is a right strategy, because we need to assess our assumption and our business strategy, and people strategy should be part of it. And it's quite important that we understand what the uncertainty that we are facing, and to understand how we adjust the hiring and the talent strategy over there. And but at the same time, I think in the long term, I am not a believer that this is going to change our view on the people's qualification, because, you know, we are in the tech world, and the people we bring in, they are very comfortable with remote working. Sure. And so I think in the long term, it's quite small impact. But in the short period of time, a lot of corporates as well as startups are learning about what the impact will be and how do we bounce back, basically.
So, Simon, I kind of sort of adding to that, I totally agree with that. We obviously, that's what we do. By the way, I'm not from recruitment background. I'm from business, so I'm in here from a client perspective more than anything. I'm looking at it very differently in the recruitment game. Our recruitment volume is obviously decreased a lot, but we are still recruiting, which is great news. Which says something about the economy and the economies of different countries, which is quite variable in how that's operating, and there is no trend that's similar, by the way. There is nothing I can give you of any insight of normality in this at all. But what we're finding is a couple of things. One, interviewing virtually is quite frightening for a lot of people, and I get that, because you're making decisions on your talent in this framework and this environment, and it seems quite weird, right? So we're tackling that challenge, which we will and we do, and obviously that takes a lot of reference checking and a lot of deep, insightful behavioural questioning and so forth that you need to do. The other thing is too, then when the decision is made, it's the virtual onboarding process, which is so critical, because that people strategy, making sure that we're having a really good relationship with the candidate and the client all at once in that first phase is so important. So we've invested pretty heavily in that, on some cheat sheets really for the client and for the candidate, and there's a lot of interaction there. So the thing that I do like about this challenging time in that perspective is we're kind of caring a little bit more deeply about that onboarding, because I will stress to everyone, I reckon it is one of the worst experiences from candidates globally ever to share with everyone. Doesn't matter if you're a startup or you're a big blue chip. And I'm sure I can look at everyone on the speaker list here and say, tell me about the thousands of experiences you've had that have been horrific onboarding. What this is doing is making it a little bit pointy. So there's quite a positive coming out of this. People have to do it well. They have to think about it, and we want to support it. So I'm seeing some sort of little bits of sort of fairy dust coming out of this period of time, and we've got to take some accountability in the solution, not just raise the problem and run away. We want to be part of the solution too.
Okay, great stuff. And Lara, any thoughts from you on hiring at the moment?
No, I think Yi's covered the sentiment that we have. So yeah, it's I'm not sure I can add anything more than what's already been said.
No, that's fine, thanks. Well, look, I've just got what I'm conscious that people are now drifting off, and in James's case, it's gone off to listen to the daily coronavirus briefing. So maybe others are going to drop out to do that. But I just would like to ask one final and quick question. You've all touched on various different technologies that are being, excuse me, that you're all using to address the problems at the moment. I wondered if out of the entire suite that you're using, if any have emerged as clearly brilliant and almost lifesavers in the current context, but also anything, and we don't necessarily need to name names, but anything that's positively hindered or got in the way.
I can start there actually. So I think we haven't necessarily started using anything new. We were already using Slack and Zoom and Google Hang and things like that. I think what we have definitely discovered is with Slack, and we love Slack. We kind of moved everybody onto Slack, and kind of all of our internal day-to-day runnings of the business is on Slack, which leaves email open for customers or investors or external things that need to be actioned. But the problem with Slack, when you're relying on it so heavily and you're not then in the office, is there's no tone that comes across in Slack. I have a tendency to sort of rapidly fire off a bunch of thoughts, and sometimes I forget I'm the CEO, and there's no tone attached to these things, and actually I could just be quite happily going, oh, we need to do this, we need to do that, and suddenly my team members kind of going, oh my goodness, when does she want me to do this? Is it now? Is it tomorrow? I don't have time, so I think we've probably learned what not to do in this new environment, which is trying not to bombard people with messages, because you may not realize how you're coming across, but other than that, our core ways of working really are Slack, Google Hang, Zoom, or Join Me for the sort of group meetings or external meetings. All seem to be working very, very well for us.
Great. Did you hear that, Sarah? Not too much bombarding with messages and requests. Okay, that's very good. What about you two? Any emergent clear winners in terms of text, or clear losers, frankly?
No, I have to, I think I totally agree with Lara's point. We are not using any new technology that we didn't use before, that the tools we are on is exactly the same with before. And Slack, Zoom, Google Doc, as well as Jira. So, but I think adoption rate and how much you rely on those tools at different level, because everything will go to either one of the channel. I think one thing that need to be a bit careful is that sometimes you wake up and you start to check on the different, you got like 3 messages on WhatsApp from your colleagues and 4 on Slack, a few on Jira.
Oh.
It's just like, and when you wanted to search something, you're like, is there an email on Slack? I can't remember. I think that create a little bit chaotic in the room, but otherwise I think we pretty much on where we were before. I don't think any of the tool is a life-saving tool, because you have to sort of adapt to them for different purpose. But I think they work fine. They work quite well, to be honest. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, great. Jason, any last word for you on that?
Yeah, we use all the same stuff. I think the big thing, the challenge for us is just some of the broadband connectivity, really, which has been a bit wobbly at times, to be honest. Which we've given some feedback. Some of them are our customers as well. That's been a bit wobbly. I've got to tell you though, I've enjoyed some of the environmental stuff, like kids running in, dogs jumping, cats jumping off stuff. I mean, I'm pretty immature at the best of times. That's really entertained me. That's made my day. I've been just watching husbands and wives walk in dressing gowns and nighties and pajamas, not knowing their poor partners are on calls. I've had a very entertaining moment. So it's probably environmental stuff, not technology.
Right, that's great. Now I've got that image in my head, and it won't. I've got to live with that for the rest of the day. But all right, well, look, thank you very much. That's great, and thank you for everyone that came in with questions. Sarah, I'm going to hand back over to you. Have you got any?
Thank you very much.
I just
wanted to address Neil's question just quickly before we leave, and he's referencing EIS, Enterprise Investment Scheme, and helping to convince the Chancellor to increase the limits. And I'm just interested to hear from the panel, both as founders and as investors. What do you think would be the most effective support mechanism at the current moment? Because I'm aware that a lot of startups are falling between the cracks of the things that are on offer. So do you have any insights and also any ideas about how we lobby the Chancellor as a community? Who wants to? Lara, as a founder, what would be the most effective support mechanisms for you at the moment? You've decided to pause fundraising, yes. So an EIS increase wouldn't change things for you, but
yeah, I mean, I think, you know, we will be looking to initiate our investor discussions again as soon as we can. I think for me, if there's a way to kind of give investors confidence that, you know, to maybe take a different approach on kind of gut feel, or invest less on, you know, financial projections and what you can control this year, but if you believe in the founder, the team, the product, the traction, you know, I know that's obviously, you know, investing is a personal decision, but if there are other ways that investors can perhaps evaluate investing in 2020, perhaps maybe a different approach might make people feel a bit more comfortable. But I guess, yeah, I'm not sure I can comment on how to best lobby on the EIS front. You know, it would obviously be welcome because our round will be an EIS round. But yeah, I've definitely spoken to some investors who are still going to invest kind of regardless of how this year pans out, which is fantastic. So I just wonder if there's any other comfort that Angel Academe can give to its investor base to show who is investing in what, or you know, a different way of thinking.
Thank you. So there are various campaigns and petitions for increasing the EIS rate that are going round. So I can circulate those. And in terms of kind of working with our investor community, we do try and be very transparent about who's investing and maintain confidence. But I think it's only normal for people to be rattled by the current situation, because you know, everyone's personal finances may be affected as well. But on that note, I'm very conscious of the time, so we should bring the discussion to a close. Huge thanks to all our speakers. Another thank you to Faye and Danya. Everything's gone extremely smoothly on the technology front. We've recorded this, so we'll make the recording available if anyone wanted to share it with other people, and we'll also be writing a post, so look out for that on our usual social media channels and on our blog as well. So thank you very much everyone for paying attention, and look forward to speaking to you all soon, and even seeing you in person in the not too distant future.